For the first time in weeks, there are tentative signs that the United States and Iran may be stepping back from the brink of a wider war. After 2 weeks of American airstrikes on Iranian military and nuclear targets, President Donald Trump has paused the bombing campaign, reportedly wanting to give diplomacy a chance. Tehran has responded cautiously, indicating it would refrain from retaliatory attacks as long as the United States suspended its military operations. The pause has opened the first meaningful diplomatic window since the conflict escalated earlier this month. But the key issue over the control of the Strait of Hormuz remains unresolved.
Mediators may convey messages from the American side to us regarding the current developments in the region, but at present we have no negotiations with the American side. We have never allowed, and we will never allow the United States to determine when there is war or peace. We will defend ourselves whenever our interests require it, whenever our circumstances require it, whenever we believe we can use diplomacy as a tool to safeguard our national interests. We will certainly use it as such.
As the president said, we are locked and loaded. Even more assets are going into theater. But he's giving talks some space. He's giving it a little bit of room. We've had both Oman and Iran and a number of our other negotiators engaged at every level, from the most senior levels all the way down to the technical level over the past few weeks, and particularly in the past few days.
For more, we're joined by SABC News correspondent Sherwin Bryce-Pease from New York. Sherwin, good evening to you. And the price of international Brent crude oil dropping by more than 8% of the renewed sentiment around diplomacy, right, and a potential negotiated off-ramp. But there is no certainty, is there, Sherwin, that the current trajectory can be maintained?
Look, what goes down can go up, right? And that is speaking to the oil price here, Bongiwe. It has fluctuated by the sentiments around this war. As they fluctuate, so do the indices around the Brent crude price, and so does the value in your pocket, essentially. What President Donald Trump told Axios News earlier today, Bongiwe, is that he decided to pause the U.S. strikes on Iran in order to give negotiations another chance, but stressed that he could order a return to expanded military operations if diplomacy fails. We've seen that kind of playbook before. We are back at this point where we're giving this potential diplomatic off-ramp the space here, you know, without the U.S. strikes and the retaliatory strikes from Iran. But the question is, can the mediators bring their influence to bear on the parties here, the work of the Pakistanis, the Omanis, the Qataris, and certainly the Gulf countries in that region that do not want to see an escalation. Some of the other reasons we understand that this pause is happening is, yes, to give diplomacy a chance, but also concerns over U.S. weapons stockpiles, Bongiwe. According to U.S. officials cited by multiple U.S. outlets, senior military leaders warned that stocks of key air defense interceptors like your Patriot missiles and other precision munitions were being depleted after the trajectory of this conflict that has not been arrested. To date, the chairperson of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, raised concerns about maintaining sufficient inventories to defend U.S. forces were the war to expand again. Another reason, military objectives, we understand from certain Trump administration officials, have been achieved. Officials reportedly advised the president that many of the highest priority Iranian military and nuclear targets had already been struck. Continuing the campaign, according to the reportage we've seen, was expected to produce diminishing military returns while increasing the risk of escalation. So that's the scenario we are faced. We are at an inflection point, right? This is how the politicians like to talk about it, the pundits. We're at an inflection point. The question, Bongiwe, is, in which direction does this inflection go? Do we go to peace? Do we go to diplomacy? Do we get the negotiations back on track? Or is this a pause in lieu of yet another military escalation? That's the question we still have.
Sounds all too familiar, right? So what more do we know, though, about the developments between Iran and Ukraine in the Caspian Sea after Ukraine said its forces carried out long-range strikes against vessels that were allegedly transporting military cargo? This was between Iran and Russia. So Iran then saying one of its vessels was struck and warned the attack would not go unanswered. So what's the latest on that front?
Listen, if our viewers are hearing the words Ukraine in the context of the Iran-US conflict, they are not to be confused. We are beginning to see the potential crossover here between these two conflicts, right? The Russian war against Ukraine, but also understand the alliance between Iran and Russia. There's widespread reportage that Russia has been providing drone technology, if not drones themselves, to Russian forces in their fight against Ukraine. Ukraine now striking vessels that it believes are military targets in terms of that exchange, those military exchanges between Iran and Russia, striking vessels in the Caspian Sea. The Caspian Sea is this largest landlocked sea of water, that borders Iran, Russia, Azerbaijan, Turkmenistan, and several other countries in that region. And the Ukrainians are confirming that they carried out the operation against ships it believes were being used to transport military supplies supporting Russia's war effort. Iran has strongly objected to Ukraine targeting one of its vessels. It says a sailor died, was killed, and the vessel was damaged, and it has called the head of the Ukrainian mission in Iran, in Tehran, for a démarche. I mean, this is a familiar language in diplomatic terms, in terms of calling in diplomats to haul them over the coals. And Iran, Bongiwe has said that they have the right to respond here. So, big concern about where this might go. Could this now see Ukraine playing a bigger role in terms of this war moving forward? I can tell you, Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, is due in Washington on Tuesday. He will be meeting tomorrow with the president of the United States, as will Benjamin Netanyahu for information purposes. So, certainly a meeting and an exchange in the White House that we will be watching very closely.
And watching we shall, because it all sounds like now we are back at that uncertain point and seemingly not getting out of that anytime soon. But appreciate your time and reportage as always. SABC News correspondent Sherwin Bryce-Pease, they're live for us from New York, giving us the very latest as far as the story is concerned.